page 1, so you can have the address. And now we're going to get started with our health talks with Brandon.
All right, good morning and happy Sabbath, everyone. Good to have you with me today. So yeah, like my mom just said, that we're going to be continuing, I think it was like a whole month ago that I spoke, so, telling you that we would, about my testimony and how my health journey went. And now today we're going to be continuing with like the actual hydrotherapy portion of it. So, and if you did miss a little bit of that, just like I worked at UG Pines for about 2 years, that I learned and worked in the sanitarium for 6 months, doing hydrotherapy and other natural remedies. And so I'm going to share that with you today. Let's just pray real quick, and then I'll get into it. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this time to be able to be of service and use the things that you've given me. I pray that you will help me to be very efficient with my time, as it is limited, and that the things that I share will be for the needs of the people that that are here today. We ask you all these things, Lord, according to Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. All right, so yeah. So just a little quick history about hydrotherapy and what it is. Hydrotherapy is one of those words that's probably a big word for some people, and it's simply just a word that in 2 parts is hydro and therapy. So therapy you probably know of is a treatment of some sort to help people, and hydro is just a word that means water. So we're just talking about water therapy, or ways to use water wisely, as Ellen White would have put it. In fact, she even says, and I believe it's in the Ministry of Healing, if any of y'all know better, you can correct me. But she says that if water used wisely, it would bring about miracles, miraculous healing. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. So hydrotherapy is nothing new. It's something that many ancient civilizations have used. The Babylonians used it. The Egyptians have used it. The Greeks and the Romans have also used it. In fact, one city in Rome, Sparta, which is known for its warrior race of soldiers, there was actually a specific law to be taking hot baths every day regularly for them to be physically fit to fight. So there's that example of hydrotherapy being used in the Roman time. We also have biblical examples, considering Naaman, who was a young ruler who had leprosy, who came to the prophet in Israel. And he was told to go dip into the Jordan 7 times, right? So this is another bath situation of dipping in the Jordan 7 times. And if you recall that, and I asked the question, is like, could God have healed him without dipping into the Jordan? Yeah, right? Well, obviously. So there's a miracle working power that doesn't need any physical component to it. That's something we all know. However, did God or would God have done that? Well, from the story, He didn't choose to do it that way. So there are some times where God, and if you look into the Gospels, you'll always see that there's a faith component of something that allows us to attach. We're able to put our will into action to activate or to gain those miracle powers. So from what I've seen with the Bible, when you look at the fact that, like, with the man who was born blind, he put the salve over his eyes and he asked him to dip into the Jordan. And you see these examples over and over in the Bible where God will ask you to do something in order to kind of put faith in Him in that regard. So, God is always the source of our healing, and we should always pray when we're doing our treatments, because we don't believe in simply the natural world itself, but the one who created the natural world and gave its power to it. But also, God is the source of healing, and nature is His conduit of choice. This is our faith and our science. So, because I don't want to make it sound like because I'm going to be talking about a good bit of science, so, by creation and by design. And in much recent history, about like 100, 200 years ago, we actually had in our church Dr. Kellogg, who was... Does anybody remember like what the virus specifically that was really prevalent during his time? But there was one thing very specifically that was going around killing a lot of people who he pretty much... was able to basically cure everybody who came into the sanitarium with like hydrotherapy treatments. He had one of the lowest death rates in his sanitarium during that plague. I just forget what it was.
I think it was tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis? Okay. So TB, yeah, that's a deadly one. So anyway, basically I want to keep it really simple because I am short on time, so what I want to be able to do is to give you the most simplistic kind of general provides knowledge that you can apply to this in any situation you find yourself in. So, very simply, we use two types of water, hot and cold water. And so the effects of hot, I want just simply to think about hot increases things, right? So the effects of hot water is it increases blood flow, it increases heart rate, it increases white blood cell count, or white blood cell activation. This can also be called inflammation, so it's kind of counterintuitive, but this would be a good thing in certain circumstances. We actually want to increase your inflammation. It can increase body temperature and it increases metabolism. So again, everything is going up, right? In fact, actually as well, with the blood flow is it actually dilates your blood vessels, just like if you've ever seen anything like a piece of metal expands when it heats up, so does your blood vessels, so it allows more blood flow to go through. And if you can imagine, it's not very hard to imagine, that cold does the exact opposite of heat. It starts shutting down blood flow, it shuts those arteries, or those blood vessels, constricts them. It reduces the heart rate, the metabolism, and reduces inflammation. And anytime that we use both together, we call it a contrast treatment. So we'll have pure hot treatments, we'll have pure cold treatments. Very rarely there's pure cold treatments. But the bulk of what we do is we use both of these effects to do various things in the body as we do contrast treatments. So we will go over that. So the particular effects of the body that we're looking for benefits is, number one, sweating. Sweating will occur about 100 degrees body temperature, so about 4-ish degrees above normal body temperature. Sweating is a really good way of detoxing, and your skin being one of your biggest organs, largest organs. I always think about it, like when people use this word detoxing, I always feel the need to really explain what I believe in it, because it's like, you know, you may be getting a lot of these like toxins from your food and from your environment and things, but naturally, even if you're not even getting those things, sometimes we get like backed up in our system. Like when we are metabolizing and just doing natural body chemistry, we're putting off waste products. And those waste products, if they were to, you know, if you were to just never do, you know, to eliminate waste again, just use your imagination, you would become very toxic. And so one of the ways that we can actually help to offload some of this, if some of our other organs aren't working, or if things do get into our system, such as nicotine, I've helped people with non-smoking seminars, where we can actually promote sweating, and it can actually allow the blood to come up to the surface and actually come out through the sweat. You can actually release waste products and chemicals that aren't supposed to be in your body through your sweat. So that's one aspect that we use in order to help. So if you want to detoxify, if you want to get rid of waste products and help your body to kind of cleanse itself, doing some kind of prolonged hot to elevate the body temperature and promote sweating is a great way of doing that. So likewise, if you get your body temperature even higher than 100 degrees, to about 102 or 103, those are the safe ranges. You want to stay out of 104 to 105. Brain damage can start to happen around those temperatures if you're not being careful. That those are fever states. And fevers will actually, well, of course, anything with hot will elevate your white blood cell count. They'll activate your white blood cells. But actually, at this point, it'll actually start physically, by the heat itself, will actually start killing off bacteria, viruses, and even cancer. The cancer cells, I don't know if many of y'all know this, but you know, we usually think of them as very aggressive, and we give a lot of weight to that disease of cancer. But they're actually defunctional or unstable. They're weaker cells, and they can't actually take the heat in the same way that your other cells can. So they'll actually start to, in fact, they don't metabolize very well. I'm sure some of y'all in the audience understand that. So like the fact that it increases the metabolic rate, it actually kind of starves them out and actually overworks them, and it starts to kill them. So that's actually one of the biggest things that we did for cancer patients was do fever treatments. We would induce these fevers in order to kill off cancer cells. That's like our go-to one in the center. Anytime you have cancer, it's like you're getting a fever bath. Unfortunately for them, though, it's definitely like oiling you a bit. If you can imagine, have your temperature up until 102, 103 for about an hour. You're nice and cooked, very tender when you get out. So. But yeah, so it purifies. In fact, actually, one of the things I thought was really interesting is that I learned about heat shock proteins, is that anytime your body's under stress, there's actually a little braille on the, that's how I like to think about it, your cells kind of have this these little bumps called antigens on them. And whenever they get stressed or in this fever environment, it actually starts promoting a heat shock protein that makes your white blood cells easier to identify the cancer cells. So it makes it easier on the entire body to be able to fight cancer, first with the heat, and also the white blood cells get activated, and they have an easier time finding them. So, it's just an all-around great way to fight off cancer. So, and probably one of the biggest things too, like doing the hot and cold, is that we're able to manipulate blood flow. Have any of you ever noticed that whenever you put your hand in hot water, that it turns red? Right? Very simple, very simple. But what's a really interesting truth about that is that your body cannot, you would actually die if this happened, supply every inch of your body with every blood vessel some blood. It has to be very judicious in the way that it does this, as the body needs the blood, it pushes and pulls it. What's happening in your hand is you're actually opening up capillaries that were not once open. That's why the blood is there. You have more blood volume in your hand than you previously had. What's cool about this, though, is that we can use this very wisely, just as Adam White told us. We can use this very wisely to hasten healing. If you have anything, of course you wouldn't want to be doing this to an open wound or something like that, but if you want to hasten your healing of any kind of wounds or crushes or really anything, really, we can pull the nutrients that is in your blood to that area and saturate it with that nutrients, bringing it in like fresh cargoes of supplies. But at the same time, once that interaction has happened, you've pulled in your blood fighters, your soldiers, your red blood cells. They're gonna battle. They're going to destroy some stuff, and they're also going to take out all that debris. So then, what you want to do is you want to apply the cold. You're going to push that blood away again, now full of debris and well, debris is probably the best word. Push it to the filtering organs to be eliminated from the body. So, and again, we can kind of just do this constantly, this push and pull, this ebb and flow of bringing in fresh blood. Now you have to be keeping up with your nutrition, because otherwise you have poor blood, no supplies to give. But you can pull it in, and then you can push out the waste. So pull in the nutrients, push out the waste. Another good thing for blood manipulation is that we can actually use this pushing and pulling method to actually allow for decongestion and swelling. So if you have fluids in your body, you can actually push and pull the fluid out as well with your vessels. So if you had something like edema, or if you have, one of the ones I'm going to be teaching you next time will be the facial contrast. So you actually have 3 different cavities for sinuses, and if you've ever gotten a cold, you'll feel it. It'll hit real hard behind your eyes, and you get like this ache behind your forehead here, and you have one like right behind your cheeks as well. So if those get filled up with mucus, because they're trying to discharge, the mucus is there to catch the viruses and the bacteria, and it's trying to expel them, they'll get clogged up in this cavity, and you can actually use that hot and cold to actually massage it out, and it'll start draining it out of your nose. And every time I've had it, it works wonders for me, because then I don't have all this, literally this pounding headache of congestion behind my eyeballs. Now again, too, in a couple hours, you're probably going to have to do it again, because your body's building up those cavities again. But still, if you can imagine, since you're not constipated literally up in your face, you're getting rid of the things that your body needs to get rid of, and it'll hasten the healing. 2 other things I want to mention too about it is that, and these are usually prolonged heats, and I can go into this too next time. We'll go into the actual, I'll repeat all of this in a month's time when we actually do the treatments. But prolonged heat can actually, if you apply it to the back, if you have like a heating pad, or if I can show you how to do foam infusions, where you can just do it with towels if you don't have things like that. But it'll actually relax the muscles around the spine and soothe the central nervous system. And we use this for people who have a hard time going to sleep for insomnia. So that'll actually help put them to sleep as well. Along with that, what's soothing nerves is that it helps, it's really good for pain. If you have a generalized pain in somewhere, doing hydrotherapy can work wonders for that. As it can shut down the pain gates and start to soothe the nerves. It also relaxes muscles, so if you have tension, of course, it's going to kind of massage them out, in a sense, by moving blood through. And if anybody has high blood pressure, again, this idea of being able to manipulate your blood vessels, if you've ever thought about, like, if there's too much pressure inside of a piping system, you know, if you got too much pressure in your pipes, well, just being able to, like, open a valve somewhere and let it release into another section, you know, adding some more pipes helps. Same too with your blood vessels, that if you have a bunch of high blood pressure, you can start opening up those extra capillaries and relieving some of the pressure and some of the tension that will be on the heart because of that. So again, that's not necessarily a fix, but it's definitely something that the body will appreciate very much to be able to help you out. So if anybody's, and that's a very common thing, dealing with high blood pressure. So taking, not necessarily hot baths, but neutral warm baths can be a good benefit to do that. It'll open up those capillaries on your skin and allow your, I'd sit there for about 30 minutes to an hour, and that can really be a good treatment for high blood pressure. So, well, that's all I have to cover for today. As I said, next time that we meet, which will be in a month, I want to go over the specific treatments with you. I want to go over basin-based treatments, and I want to go over fomentation-based treatments. And if we have time too, because I have 3 more times with you, I want to go over some cold treatments as well. So, so I look forward to doing that with you.
Thank you.
Quick question. So a lot of times people, when they get cold and they get their fevers, aches and chills, they're always like trying to get Tylenol, ibuprofen to calm the fever down. In your experience, is that kind of counterintuitive to what the body's trying to do?
It's funny, we've gotten a counterintuitive because we're so distrustful of our bodies and the way that we're made that we're like, oh, we need to stop this, we need to stop this. So you're very much on the right track. It's actually counterproductive because your body is trying to fight off. The reason it's elevating the temperatures for everything we just talked about, right? But you're using your own vitality to do it. So yeah, actually, it's weird that we take medicines that actually fight against what the body's trying to do to heal us. So the fever is there for a reason. It's actually healing you. So again, too, is that we want to promote the fever in a sense. In fact, actually, if you do a fever bath, then you can get your body temperature above 1 degree of the fever you currently have. It'll break it. So that can be good. But certainly, if you have a fever that's going on for 6+ hours, then there are times that we need to kind of deal with that and give the body a rest. Because if we tire ourselves out, then then we become susceptible and weak. So we have to be wise about how we do it, but certainly we want to work with the body, not against it. So I like that question. Did anybody else have any other questions?
Does it matter? Okay, the details. After when you're alternating the hot and cold, what should you end with?
In the cold. I like this question a lot, actually, because it's kind of something that I did kind of forget to mention. It's because we want to be good stewards. We want to put everything back where we got it from. If I'm ever doing like a hot foot bath, which is for headaches, we're trying to decongest the head, and I'll talk about this again when I do a hot foot bath. But we're actually trying to remove blood from the head. But the thing is that if you get up too soon and your blood pressure doesn't compensate for that, you pass out because you don't have enough blood here. So that's a very good thing, is that we want to end on cold because we want to shut down our pores and we want to push the blood back to where we found it. Exactly. You always typically end on cold. Any others? That was a good question. 2 good, very quick questions. All right. Well, if there are no other ones, I'll hand it off to my brother Brad, and he's going to talk to you about postural alignment therapy.
Well, thank you for that, Brandon. I do like the note that you ended on thinking of, well, the fever's not a bad thing. The body's not against itself. That really flows in well to what we're going to be talking about today. And I won't go into the weeds because I only have 15 minutes, but some provocative things you could say. It's like even your herniated disc in your spine is kind of like that fever. It's not the problem. There's something else that's deeper that's going on. And Brandon had mentioned previously, last time he spoke, Ecclesiastes 7 says that God made man upright. That's basically what I'll be touching on today. God has a design for us. He has an original design, and we tend to deviate from that design, and when we do, there's consequences. And this is no different. So we'll talk about your posture, how that relates to why you have certain pain, how it affects how your body moves and functions, energy levels, digestion. We can go into all kinds of things. Like I said, we only have 15 minutes. This will be very, very general overview. So if you guys can see on the screen, this is how our body is designed, right? Your body has a design just like everything that's been made has a design. A chair has a design. A car has a design, and when the moving pieces are not where they're designed to be, the machine doesn't move and function the way it's designed to. Our body's no different. So we have 8 load-bearing joints. We have 2 ankles, 2 knees, 2 hips, 2 shoulders. Hopefully we all come out that way. And they're not kind of the same on the left side as the right side. They're exactly the same. You might be right-handed or left-handed, but you shouldn't be left-hip or right hip. They need to be able to move the same way on both sides, or else you're gonna have a problem. Your feet should point straight ahead. You may be able to notice there's 90-degree angles at each of those joints, the ankle, the knee, the hip, the shoulder. So horizontally they're level. One shouldn't sit higher than the other. Same with your hips. Your knees should point straight ahead. That kind of tells you what's going on in that big thigh bone that makes up the hip joint. If the knee's pointed out versus in, or maybe you've seen someone who's more knock-knee versus bow-legged. Like those would all be deviations from our design. Even which way your feet point isn't by accident, or if you have collapsed arches or too much of an arch in your foot. Those aren't just like you're born that way, like something went wrong. This is how we should all be born, and any deviation from that is not part of, our design. And from the side view, you'll see that those same joints, the ankle, the knee, the hip, and the shoulder, are vertically stacked on top of each other. And we have that natural S curve of our spine. So when those joints are not vertically stacked on top of each other, just like any other building or structure, the load isn't going to be distributed evenly amongst those joints. There's not going to be balance and equal tension from the muscles in front of your body versus the ones posterior to your body. And this is, it's kind of funny because when you think of posture, everyone thinks I need to sit up straight or like have a straight spine. Well, your spine's really not straight. It's an S curve, right? There's an inward curve of the lower back, there's an outward curve of the upper back, and there's an inward curve again of the neck. So this is a very interesting photo. We've had a postural decay, and there's some clues as to maybe why that might be happening even in these photos. Do you know what these guys are doing? They might be working. You go a few hundred years back, you don't even have to go that far back, but this would not look like work. But for a lot of us, this is how we get work done. By looking like we're doing nothing, we're sitting. And there's plenty of old sayings, you are what you eat. There's some truth to that. You use it, you lose it. I think there's a lot of truth in that too. Your body has all these amazing capabilities. Your shoulder has certain capabilities, your hip does, your knee does, your ankle does. And like I said, the left side and the right side need to have the same capabilities. But if you don't use it, then you do start to lose it. I really love this photo. Looking at the right, these kids playing basketball versus these older gentlemen here on the left. They never stopped playing. Do you think they won just the genetic lottery, or maybe they just never stopped as part of it? And I just love that image because I think that is something that we can all have. I know that many things happen in our lives, but there's always something we can do to make things better than they presently are. I know all of us are Christians, so especially if you have faith that, hey, God wants me to have an abundance of life and He can use me. Faith without works is dead. It is going to take some work, but there's that combination of faith and works. So this is what we're designed for. We're literally made for this. This is what you're made for. We're made for movement. How about something like this? How did this happen? Probably didn't happen overnight, right? They'd probably say, I woke up one day and my tooth started to hurt, and it looked like that. Well, I look at people's posture no different. They're like, man, my back just started hurting out of nowhere. I picked up 5 pounds off the ground and blew my back. Well, there was probably some warning signs before that event happened. And it's kind of no different than this. How did this happen? I don't think it happened overnight either. This is something that's been taking place for quite some time. And I can ask you a trick question here. Is this bad? Looks kind of bad. But remember the fever thing. Is the body doing its best? Is it trying to correct the problem? And it's keeping you still upright. His body's still going. But look how rounded his upper back and shoulders and head are. What if that's more of a response? Like, remember the ankle, the knee, the hip, the shoulder, they all need to be stacked. His hips are like way in another zip code. So his upper back starts to round, his head comes forward, and his body says, now I'm balanced. His body's found balance. So our body's always working for us. It's not against us. How about this house? Could you go in there? What if it was a little windy outside? Maybe even less likely to go in there. Yeah, you walk around in bodies like this, and I'm going to play tennis, I'm going to work out, I'm going to do this, that, and the other, and you wonder why you're hurt. I mean, imagine this structure with any force given to it, even without force. It's so unstable. There's certain points that have more stress than others. Our body's literally the same way, but for some reason we don't view it that way. So this is kind of the vicious pain cycle we have in our modern world. We live in an emotionless world, right? We don't have to move the way we used to. Like, even the passive things, like even what I'm doing right now with this clicker, like a TV channel, you used to have to at least get up to turn the next channel or turn the volume up. Now you literally can just do it from anywhere. You used to have to at least have a push mower and a riding mower. You used to pull weeds, maybe you can spray it. Like, every invention is convenient, but we're sacrificing something. You know, instead of chopping wood, maybe use the chainsaw. So, and I'm not saying don't do those things, but we're losing function. We're asking less of our bodies, and it does pay a price. So when we live in this emotionless world, we start to develop pain that we don't understand, and then without our own self-reliance, we skip self-help and we immediately go to seek help from outside experts, which I'm not saying don't do that, but we get a quick fix to our immediate problem that often fails to address the root cause of our pain, and then the pain continues because we don't understand it, we don't address that root cause, and then we're still fearful and scared of it still. Right? There's a lot of power in knowledge, right? Knowledge really does help cast out fear. So with this, there's a lot of diagnoses you might have. Like, do you have a bulging disc, or herniated disc, wrist pain, elbow pain, arthritis, sciatic pain, stenosis, scoliosis, poliosises, and the itises, and incises. There's a lot of those. But really, there are mechanical reasons why you have these problems. So just remember, just like the car, poor posture equals poor function. It's not the body you take to the act. It's the body you take to the activity, not the activity itself. You got to fix the body going into the activity versus just avoiding the activity. For instance, like, man, I'm just not taking my car out on the track anymore because my tires are starting to ball unevenly. Well, it's made for that. There's maybe some deviation in the design, right? If the tire alignment's off, no wonder the tires are starting to wear unevenly. Well, your alignment's off, things are going to start to wear and tear unevenly. But that doesn't mean you stop doing what you're made for. The car shouldn't just be like, well, maybe I'll do something else instead of drive. It's still made for that. Our body is designed to do all these amazing things, and it's going to give us a peek into how the body functions. So we took this young guy's photos, and maybe we saw some things in like how his knee was positioned, how his ankle was positioned, how his hip was positioned, how his shoulder was positioned. And that gives us a little bit of a snapshot of how he might move. Now here on the left side, we got to see it in real time, right? And bones only do what muscles tell them to do. You can see how his left knee drops out more than his right knee. So like his left femur is able to externally rotate in the hip joint more than it is on the right side. Now we didn't just put weights on his knees and just kind of leave them there for a while. We did a few exercises outside of this one to get the muscles to move the bones and joints where they should be, and then there on the right photo is actually maybe 5 to 10 minutes later. Now, I'm not saying this is like some quick fix. Like it's one of those things just like working out. Your body responds to stimulus all the time. You go outside, we're probably going to start sweating after a while. We don't really have a choice. You start to put good food in your body. It's not like magic where things just start to disappear immediately, but consistently doing this through enough time, the body adapts, and that's really our superpower, is that we adapt. We're so adaptive to our environment. We're always responding to stimulus. It's actually a really cool photo, so we need to train our bodies. This is a guy we caught at an event standing there on the left photo, literally talking on the phone like that. And then all we did was take his feet and went pigeon-toed, tighten up his thighs, and look at how much better stacked his joints are from ankle, knee, hip, and shoulder. Like I said, I won't get in the weeds, but that just turned on some muscles that pulled on some bones, and his alignment's better. Now you can't just walk around like that all day. But train your body, and then he should be able to stand like that with his feet straight and not have his he's basically doing a back bend all day. No wonder your back hurts. No wonder you might have a herniated disc. There's pressure on those shock absorbers that those discs are, and eventually they give out, and that pressure will come out, and then they might hit a nerve. You might not be able to guess what this guy's profession was, but here's some of his symptoms. Degenerative disc disease, which is kind of a funny name because it's not like something you can catch like a cold, you know. So it's not like a disease that you can catch. He has thoracic compression fractures and TMJ. Well, look at that. I don't know if you can see that line, but where is his ankle, knee, hip, shoulder? And that line should go through his ear, by the way. That's how far forward his head position is. So when you look at, just think about any other machine, right? It's supposed to look like this. Remember our blueprint. Just like any other machine has a blueprint. How far has he deviated? Think about see all those muscles? How far forward his head is? And I think I have a slide right here which will kind of give you a little bit more of the answer and I can come back to it. But every 10 degrees is 10 more pounds of pressure that all these muscles have to make up for. Your neck, your jaw. So no wonder he's having degeneration in that area. No wonder he's having these TMJ symptoms. And I just want to briefly show this because this kind of touches on how your posture could impact blood flow, nerves, I mean even when it comes to lymphatic fluid. If your shoulder, like look at all the stuff that's going on underneath the scene. I mean, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, right? All this stuff is going on and we're just either not aware of it or we just don't think, we take it for granted. But if our shoulder's not where it should be, that might even dictate the blood flow that's going on. And so again, hydrotherapy can be helpful, and then getting to like more of a foundational pillar of your posture is another piece of that puzzle. I just thought this would be a good photo to show because you look at this top image and you think that looks pretty permanent. You know, flat feet, it's lost a lot of the arch on their foot. That there on the bottom photo, not sure exactly how long that was, but it could have been a year's worth of work. It's actually funny, we're all born flat-footed and we develop the arches in our feet when we crawl as children. So you hear that excuse all the time, I was born this way. But hey, I don't know what your childhood looked like. And going back to the older photo, I think we should still have that child picture or else we'll lose it. This is just a really cool photo too to show this is 8 weeks difference and how much more in shape does he look on the right. I mean, it looks like he's lost weight too, so there's some things that are internally going on. Think about that outside system when it's not positioned the way it should be, how that's going to impact even just the digestive organs and how things are supposed to flow and move. So everything internally is going to be affected by the outside system as well. Here's a 49-year-old athlete showing us his barbell back squat. I mean, the bar would be going through his ear. I mean, like, so there's going to have to be some compensation to make up for the lack of movement in his shoulder. And you have someone that's his senior on the right side who's moving much better than him, so I wouldn't chalk it all up to age either. His hips are actually moving, whereas the guy on the left, he's so stuck in his hips that his upper body has to compensate. Maybe you guys know this guy on the right, Conor McGregor. You probably just look at this photo and know who won this fight, if maybe even you watched it too, but he's already in this defeated position, and we actually ended up working with him, and he ended up winning the next fight because he found out where power really comes from. But this is just kind of showing the athletic performance side of it. There's a lot of photos on this one, but you know, there's a difference on left and right from that young lady with scoliosis. That bottom left is kind of funny to see how you catch people standing. This is like that coach's stance. Kids catching them nowadays, both their technology and how that's impacting their posture growing up. But mostly I want to take some time looking at that top right photo. So we're just asking the body to get underneath this, you know, this wooden panel. And how much different do these two guys get underneath there? Well, the guy on the left, he squats down, his hips can't move, so his upper back has to round to get underneath there, versus the guy on the right. Again, his hips are able to move the way they're supposed to. His upper body doesn't have to sacrifice and round kyphonically, so he's able to get underneath it. So what are you really asking your body to do? And if it can't do it, it's going to find a way to do it. Like I said, it's a superpower. It's adaptive. Compensation is a good thing that we're able to do it, but we shouldn't constantly live in compensation. You if we ask our hip to do something, it should be able to do it. So the message is to get hip, maybe not the way you think, but here on the left side photo, this lady's going down trying to touch her toes, and she was so excited to show us the next day what it looked like, because she'd been doing these exercises, right, because muscles move bones. So I don't like to use the word exercise because it sounds like maybe it'll scare you a little bit, but be gentle. It's all about just turning on the right things. So, no hip, all spinal movement there on the left, versus her hip is finally able to move, so her spine doesn't have to compensate for that. So your pelvis needs to be able to roll over the head of your leg bone, and then you'll be able to touch your toes better, even though we didn't stretch your hamstrings, even though that's what might feel tight. This is just kind of a cool photo of even just seeing scoliosis going down there to touch your toes, like how horizontally more level things could be. This is actually, I think, 2 hours after scoliosis. And again, I'm not advocating it's a quick fix. Just want to throw that out there. These are some pretty cool photos of clients we've worked with throughout the years. This gentleman, this could have been like an 8-week process, but he's certainly not as crooked as he was when he started. And this was a lady in Japan. That was actually 90 minutes difference in the same day. And this might actually be a good one to finish on too, because you know what she said? She said, I feel the same. You look at that and you're like, how in the world can you feel the same? But that's how powerful our mind is too, because until she saw these photos, she felt the same. She didn't know what was happening and what was changing in her body, but she started crying when she saw the photos. Because for her, it was so important, like what she looked like. She saw that she had become a different one. She looks younger, right? It looks like she got younger. And so that made her start to cry, and then she started to feel better. So that's why I started with it, and maybe I'll leave it with you as well. Jesus says, basically, to your faith it shall be unto you. So, according to the measure of your faith. So if you don't believe you can get better, it's going to be so much harder to get better. Brain, that's how we even perceive pain, through our brain and nerves. But God designed us for movement, and we can do great things. And just know that you're not broken. You might just be a little bent. So I'm just kind of bend you back in shape. I think that's pretty much all I have. Unless you guys do have questions, I'm welcome to entertain them as well. But this could be a lot of questions. Because we'll touch on more. Like we can go over different diagnoses and dive a little deeper. But
So how can you fix your posture?
yeah, so it's all going to be through certain movements, exercises, getting the muscles to move the bones and joints where they should be. In a simple sense, like the people I showed you, if we're asking your hip to do something and it can't do it, well, it needs to be able to do it. But typically what happens is another part of the body's going to be like, well, if they can't, I'm going to join in and try to help get the task done that you're asking it to do. It's kind of like if a squirrel couldn't climb a tree, it'd be a pretty poor excuse for a squirrel. But for some reason, for us, we think, well, I can't do that anymore, so I'm just not going to do it. And for a time, you might want to avoid it because it's increasing pain, but ultimately, know that that's a problem that needs to be revisited. I need to be able to do that. If our kidney wasn't able to do what it's designed to do, it needs to. So all these joints are the same way. We'll dive deeper into the how, and I know everyone's 8, so it's probably not the best time to necessarily do exercises, but this is something that we can continue to have an ongoing conversation on. Yeah. You're welcome. Yes?
Most scolies that I've seen were a result of an injury where the vertebral body was chipped and the body reabsorbed that. And then, they have an uneven lie of the vertebral bodies. Is there a way to fix that if that's what went wrong?
Yeah, even in cases like that, at the bare minimum, what I would view things like that, like let's say somebody has literally a leg length discrepancy that's not going to change. To me, that just means there's even more of a reason to do something to get your body as balanced as possible. So the whole body into account and see how much better your body is able to deal with even something like that. Yeah. Well, I won't hold up everyone, and thank you for your time, and we'll be back again, like in a month basically for me, for this stuff. So thank you for listening.